Hey, welcome. This is Steven, and welcome to It's Meaningless. This is the podcast for startup owners, startup entrepreneurs who are tired of stuck and are ready to face the brutal truth. Here we uncover the meaningless daily habits that keep you, me, from growing and protecting your business and in life. This is episode, I think it's 23. I haven't gone to check yet. So anyway, today we're talking about deflection. Um, and I think I probably started off on the wrong foot on this, but I might have to come back and do a second episode on this. Um, because I guess this topic is sort of multifaceted. Um, so I I had a recent situation with this. So I had a place that hosts servers for me. Um, they had a incident, I don't know, a week or two ago. Power went out, and um, I power went out, and effectively, I mean, they're paid to like keep the power on. They're paid to have backups. They're paid to have backups on backups on backups. Um, but effectively, like what they had in place failed. Um, so uh, anyway, rewind to the time of the incident. When I noticed that the server I had with them was out, I gave them a call to effectively see like how to get this thing back on because I have client stuff on there. And my client needed access to it. So called them and um one thing I noticed, uh let's just say that this is a relatively like emergency situation. And so I'm having a conversation with them about like, okay, what's the status, what's going on? So they tell me about the power outage. Um, and so I'm like, okay, so like what is it gonna take to get back on? Um, the biggest thing I noticed, and again, this is a like a fairly big deal. The biggest thing I noticed out of that conversation was the fact that they were really quick to shift the blame. Like they named some entity that was responsible for um, the power outage, and that was what stuck with me more than anything else. Not how much time they said it was going to take to get it back up, or what they said they were doing then. What stuck with me more than anything is that they passed the buck. Um, and like on one hand, I get it, as in like no one wants other people to think, hey, look, this is my fault. Um, the the thing about it though, in their case is it was their responsibility. In other words, I'm paying them. It was their responsibility to take care of um that. In other words, it was their responsibility to make contingencies and have contingencies on contingencies for making sure that like situations like that didn't happen. Uh, or when situations like that happen externally, it did not affect them. Um, so I bring that up to one for a little bit of context, because I know for a fact, like on this blame shifting thing, is not just me. I realize that a lot of leaders pay attention to this. Um, a lot of leaders pay attention. Leaders pay attention to them to this because effectively, at the end of the day, whether they're hiring your company, whether you are looking to work for them or working for them in some capacity, they they're leaders of the mindset that, hey, look, if I hand you something, I need you to be responsible for it. Like if you're gonna come back to me later and tell me about what somebody else didn't do, um, if somebody else dropped the ball, and so that's why you didn't deliver, then like, what am I paying you for? So this whole thing about taking responsibility or not, is a is a fairly big deal. Um, so obviously, like in this situation with the servers, I'm in question as to like whether or not, like, do I keep doing business with these guys or not? Um, and for me, like, I'm 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 relatively, I want to say, well, probably not relatively slow. I'm probably about middle of the line, maybe a little bit under, uh, but about somewhere about middle of the line in terms of like being quick to jump when things happen. Actually, I usually have a pretty decent amount of grace for situations. Um, but even still, the thing is like when we get in when we get in. Okay, I'm back. Um, anyway, when we get into situations where things go wrong, we don't want to be in that situation. Um, we don't want to be in the we don't want to come across in terms of like the client's mind that, yeah, we don't want to ever come across in their minds of bringing up the question of, should we still be should they still be employing us? Like, should they still be using our services? Should they still be in business with us? Like, we don't want to do things to bring that up. It's just like, wow. Um, and this is a fairly sticky topic because effectively, obviously, that's our mindset in terms of when we get in these situations, in terms of what we decide to do, what we decide to take ownership for, and what we decide to blame other people for. The problem is, it's like driving on ice. Um, the problem is like our actions work in reverse. Um, so just like when you're driving on ice, like when you start skidding in a certain direction, like you don't jerk the wheel back in the other direction. You move the wheel in the direction that you're moving um, in order to stop the skid. And like if you pay attention, this is something that I would probably recommend. Like if you pay attention to just, I don't know, whatever scandals come out. Pay attention to scandals when they come out. Um and pay attention to those who blame, that is, like ignore or shift the blame on somebody else. Um or yeah, pay attention to people who effectively do that, and then pay attention to the people who like are real quick to say, "Hey, look, I made a mistake. Um, it was all on me," and yeah, pay attention to how long coverage for that incident goes on. Um, if you pay attention, you'll probably really quickly see. And don't get me wrong, like there unfortunately, these days there are fewer and fewer situations where people just come out right and say, "Hey, look, no, that was me. That's all on me." But if you pay attention to that dynamic, those two situations, you'll really quickly find out that the situations in which people are really quick to say, "Hey, look, it was me. It was my fault. Um, that's all on me." Um, the situations in which people do that, those things end quick. But the ones the ones that people shift the blame and try to hide and try to say I didn't do it, like um they go on for a while. Um and if especially if this is anything that has to do with media, unless they have another better story to pick up, they will wear it out. Uh it's that for them, I guess it's the gift that keeps on giving. Scandal is the gift that keeps on giving. When people just don't simply just say, "Look, it was me." Um, so I guess I'm part of why I'm bringing this up is because like this is not. I think these are like situations where things go wrong. Um, they can be situations that work for us and not against us. Um, if we can, because effectively in the end, especially with, in other words, I do a lot of B2B. So, um, obviously, my clients are like people who make decisions in larger organizations for the most part. Um, so one of the things that I've realized, um, and to tie this together a little better, this same dynamic works with B2C too. Because at the end of the day, like you're talking to someone who, for the most part, understands, hey, look, I'm paying you. So they're in it from a position of um really being the authority. Obviously not on the solution necessarily, but the authority of like their realm, of their buying power, of their continuing to spend dollars with you. So the situation, it works both ways. Um, but what I have realized with clients before, and in general with leaders, people who make decisions, um, like effectively when situations like these occur, there are opportunities to find for them to find out like what you're about, what you're made of. And again, like I said, this does apply to B2C as well. If you if they see, and this is not like this is not everybody, but I will say it is a generalization, and even better, it's a generalization of all of your best customers. But and I'll come back to that in a bit. But if they see that you can effectively that you can take a blow standing up, um, most of them, that'll put you even higher in their book than you were before. Because let's put it like this: like character isn't like real. It isn't real until it's tested. Um, it's not believed, definitely not believed until it's tested. So when they've seen an opportunity, a situation in which your character, like you could have bolted, you could have blamed Joe down the street, um, you could have like left them out hanging to dry, and like you owned up and took responsibility for what was going on. When they see that, like ultimately, you not only gain potentially a friend, but like you gained some way more goodwill than what you would have had in the past. Even if things had gone, just continued just to go smoothly. Um, a lot of times, like times of crises are opportunities to increase like your level of um yeah, increase your level of favor in that situation or in that relationship. So, um, there was one more thing I was gonna hit on. Um, so yeah, probably run out of time, but yeah, I think I'm gonna end there. I will say this last thing, as far as deflection is concerned. Um, Again, it's just one thing that we get the opportunity to decide, and realistically, it can be difficult. Like it can like being in a situation like that, like you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know what the end result is gonna be. You don't know how people are gonna take it. Like I get it. It's easy to say, hey, look, um, let me find a way out of this for me. But I will say this. Uh, this will be something to unpack for later. But more times than not, like the way up is down. In order to increase, um, we have to do better in terms of serving. Um, so especially in situations like that, like the more we really humble ourselves, the more we find that like we're being elevated. So I'll leave it at that. That's all I have for this one. I hope to come back at some point to finish to do another take on this one, because there are a couple more avenues that we can address this on. Um, but yeah, but that's it for this one. Be back on Thursday of this week. I'm back on regular rotation and excited about it. So, yep, that's all for this one. Take care. God bless. Bye.